Well, hey, all you cool cats and kittens. Thank you for joining us tonight on Clubhouse. And tonight we are going to be talking to Deb Quimby. You guys hear her up all the time calling you onto stage. But I thought you guys might really enjoy her story because as far back as I can remember with the sanctuary, the question that people ask me the most is, how can I make a difference? How can I make the biggest difference with my life? And for the longest time, that was my email address, was makeadifference@easystreetwild.com, I think was our email back then, and then Big Cat Rescue. And what I found is people kept putting dashes in the middle of Make a Difference. So I changed it to my name, which nobody could spell right. And so I changed it to Cat at Big Cat Rescue. But it was originally Make a Difference because that is what so many people want to do. And I think this past year with COVID-19, or the past 2 years now, so many people have really appreciated how fragile life is and how precious and how we really do need to make a difference while we're here. And so when I was thinking about talking to Deb tonight, I thought, this is a person who is such a shining example to others about how they can make a difference. And Karen, I'm going to ask you to be monitoring people that are wanting to come up on the stage here. I see that there's a hand raised, and I'm not going to be able to do it because I'll be asking Deb questions. And I know Deb is a little bit nervous because she likes to be behind the scenes. She doesn't like to be the person talking. And so she's not going to be able probably to keep an eye on people to bring them up to the stage either. So what I'd like to start out by asking you, Deb, I know that you came to us over Hoover the tiger. But the day before Hoover the tiger came into your life, who was Deb Quimby?
Deb Quimby was not the same person that I am now. I had been through a separation and a divorce of a bad marriage. I had a cancer diagnosis. I had subsequent surgery from that. I had an empty nest for the first time and was very broken, basically. And that was the day before. And then the day that I came across the live where Hoover was rescued just has completely changed my life since 2016.
Before you met Hoover, had you ever been involved in any animal advocacy work?
Deb, did you want to keep going with that? I wasn't sure if Carol had another question or if you wanted to. I know the story because you've told me many times. So,
Actually, I'm sorry, I had my microphone muted. I had a question for Deb. So before you met Hoover, had you ever done any kind of animal advocacy work before?
The only kind of, no. Short answer is no. I had rescued, when I first became single as an adult, I had rescued a dachshund from a puppy mill. And that was the first time I had ever been made aware even that puppy mills existed. And I then started to become an advocate against puppy mills and dogs that were being, this sounds like such a repeat story of Priya, for example, of dogs who were being bred just because they were a designer dog or a purebred or whatever, and so many dogs in shelters. And she was rescued from a very horrible puppy mill situation and had been bred over and over again. And that was really the first animal advocacy that I was any part of. And that was just simply really telling other people her story.
That's
so
interesting.
it wasn't until after Hoover that I really got super interested in advocacy like I am today.
That's interesting that your dog had the similar story to Priya, and it now makes it clear why Priya is your favorite.
Yeah.
So the day that you, and you may not remember this, but tell me what year, and the day that you came across this live feed of Hoover, Can you explain what you were doing when you saw that, and for people who don't know Hoover's story, what it was that you saw unfolding?
So yes, I remember exactly. It was April 23rd of 2016, and it was in the evening, and I had my life prior to 2020 was that I'd been a nurse for 40 years, and I had been a nursing instructor for 12 years. And so I had come home from work and sit down on the couch in the evening and was just scrolling through Facebook. I hadn't even had Facebook all that long, and was scrolling through Facebook, and I came across this live, and it was these people talking about this tiger on a plane, and the live was showing the plane. And this tiger was in a cargo plane with Mother's Day flowers and was being rescued from a circus in Peru. And I was just totally taken by that. I watched the entire thing. I'd never heard of Big Cat Rescue before. I had no idea of the issues that big cats were dealing with in captivity. So this was a completely new area for me. And so as soon as the live was over, of course, I Googled Big Cat Rescue, and I was not able to get enough. And so then I started, this is before the Facebook groups even existed. And there was just the main page of Facebook for Big Cat Rescue. And Carol was doing evening walkabouts most every evening at the time. And I became totally enamored with her walkabouts and everything she was saying. And if you watched Carol back then, when she would do her lives, she did a lot of education as she was walking around, talking about the issues, giving links. And I was so interested in all of this. And so I started doing my own research and learning about the issues, and decided I was going to memorize every link that I could find. I still to this day have that same spreadsheet document that I have that has all the links on it that I know. And for a long time, and probably still do, have all of them memorized and what's in each one. And so that's kind of how that all came about back in 2016.
It's funny you should mention that about the links, because when I would do the walkabouts, what I found was if I was trying to educate somebody about something, I couldn't remember everything that I needed to make sure that they knew. And so I would give them the link to the page. And what I would try to do when I created the pages was to create a link that I could actually remember. Because if you have, like breeding -kills this is what, all of that, it's hard for people to follow it. But just by having those words together, like bigcatrescue.org/breeding kills, then it was an easy URL to say, and apparently made it easy for people to remember. So that was kind of cool to hear that was the case. I didn't think about it at the time as far as from your perspective or somebody else's perspective of hearing it, as to whether or not that would make it possible for them to remember it. And I miss doing those lives. I really got away from them during COVID, and it's because I don't want to be too close to the cats when they're handing out food and stuff. And if I have a mask on, you can't really hear me well. And so it's like, I don't know how Brittany does it. Oh my gosh. I'm so glad that she does. But so you went from there to learning everything about the sanctuary. When did you start actually participating, like responding in, were you on Discord first, or were you talking in Facebook first? Were you with part of the Explorer group? How did that start?
So it all started with Facebook. And I would read through all of the posts that were put up and the comments in there. And I didn't even do any commenting for a long time. I'm one of these people that I like to sit back and learn what I need to learn and listen before I try to participate. So I want to make sure that I know what I'm talking about first. And so most of my education came from what I read on the website, and then what I heard on your lives, really. And this is no joke. And Carol, I know I've told you this before. I used to listen to your lives 2 and 3 times so that I didn't miss anything, because I was afraid I had missed something that you'd said. And so I would listen to them 2 and 3 times to be sure that I heard everything.
I can't imagine anybody listening to one of my lives more than once. I mean, to even listen through all the way through is enough of a feat. But to listen 2 or 3 times, that's just over the top crazy.
And so that's really how it started. And then so Hoover was rescued in April, and then Priya and Seth and Gabby and Andy, they all came in November. And of course, shortly after, the day after they arrived, was when Priya had surgery. And being a nurse, that was very interesting to me. The whole hospital part, the surgery, watching her on the Nest cams afterwards, her recovery. And I became determined that I was going to get to Florida because I wanted to be there. But the catch was, I had a horrible fear of flying. Since 9/11,
I forgot about that.
Yes. So since 9/11, I've had a terrible fear of flying. But I was determined to overcome that. And so ended up coming then in November of 2017 was the first time I was down there.
Was that for the walkabout?
It was. But when the Wildcat Walkabout was announced, which I don't remember the exact date about that, but I think it was in the spring or early summer of 17, you were talking about the different types of tours that you could take. And you had talked about that before, but that you could take when you come to the sanctuary at that time. You could take the day tour or the keeper tour or the feeding tour, or you could take a founder's tour. And so I became very determined that I was going to take a founder's tour because I wanted time one-on-one with you to talk to you, to pick your brain about all these things I had questions about. And so I submitted what I needed to submit to see about getting a founder's tour. And the day I got the phone call, it actually was from Chelsea at the time, to talk to me about that, to say that you were willing to do a founder's tour. I was actually at the nursing home seeing my mom, and I had excused myself from the room when the phone call came in because I saw it was from Tampa. And so I went outside and talked to Chelsea. And when I hung up, I just stood there and cried because I was so excited that I was going to get to actually meet you and talk to you one-on-one. And so November the 3rd, 2017 was the day of my founder's tour and the first day that I met you.
The founder's tour, I always try to talk people out of it. And I always tell them, it's going to be boring walking around with me because I'm not allowed to feed the cats or do any of the enrichment with the cats. And if you guys want a better tour, go on the keeper tour or the feeding tour. And so I'm always trying to talk people out of it. And it sounds like I didn't have the chance to try and talk you out of it since Chelsea returned your call. But I'm glad that we got to meet. And I'm thinking it was the day before the walkabout. Is that correct? Or was it the day after?
It was the day before, and then the day of the walkabout was the walkabout, and then the next day I took the feeding tour, the keeper tour, and the day tour. I took all 3 in one day because I had to fly home the following day to get back to work.
Did I put you to work that first year, or was it the next Wildcat Walkabout that I put you in headset room?
So that was the next year, but I came back in May of 18, and that's when you had me start helping you with the catrescue.biz site.
Oh, yeah. I tend to try to put aside things that I fail at, and I failed at that.
That was not your fault that failed. That was COVID's fault.
Yeah, we had a bit of a supply chain issue. Yeah, that was horrible. And so for people who don't know, what Deb did there was I had created a website at catrescue.biz for mostly items like jewelry items that were cat themed or t-shirts that had cats on them, because you could not find a good cat shirt anywhere that had a pretty drawing of a cat on it or a clever saying about cats anywhere. And so what Deb did was amazing. She did all my shopping for me. So she would get on Alibaba and pick out all the great stuff for the store, and she was constantly updating the store for me. And you took care of, well, you tell everybody what you did. You did so much there.
I found the product. Once you approved it, I loaded the product, and then I would place the orders and give the refunds, and just monitored that store for you as long as I was involved in it until it was shut down. And I'm thinking you shut that down in maybe it was April of 2020 or May of 2020. It was not long after COVID, because you couldn't get the products anymore.
Yeah, that was terrible. So one of the things you did help me with, and I thought was so wonderful, and part of what made me notice you early on, was that you did help with the virtual reality and the headsets and trying to walk people through their first experience with that, which was not an easy thing to do. And I think it was you and Paula and a couple others, maybe Lori Duska and a few others, helped at the next walkabout doing that. And I felt like, there's a lot of people who come and want to volunteer working around the cats, and I love them for it, and I could not run this sanctuary without them. But there's a lot fewer people who get involved in the things that I think can make the biggest difference for the cats, which is the advocacy and changing people's hearts and minds and getting involved in those conversations out there. And I'm thinking, weren't you a Enneagram 9, the peacemaker?
Yeah, how do you remember that?
Well, because you do such a great job of making the peace, and it's not always an easy thing to do with a bunch of cat people.
Yeah, that is right. I was a 9.
And so can you talk to people about how you became involved in our online efforts as far as getting involved in the social media and working with Luana and all of that?
So I came back from Tampa after the walkabout in 17, and continued to, follow you with your daily walkabouts. And on Thanksgiving morning, actually, November 23rd of 17, I woke up to a message from Luana asking me if I would want to start doing the good morning and good nights, and that the group had just shortly before that started. So it was just in the group. Would I do the good morning, good night? And I told her I wasn't sure I could do that. I wasn't sure I knew what to do or that I would be able to, because I'm better now, but I was not tech savvy at the time. And I knew how to scroll through Facebook, was about all I knew how to do at the time. And so she walked me through that process. And so the night of Thanksgiving, November 23rd of 2017, was the first good night that was ever posted, and it's been every day since 2017.
Oh my goodness. I did not realize that.
So it expanded from the group then to the main page, and so I've done, everything I do online is either something you have directed me to do or something Luana directs me to do. And so she's the one that taught me what I needed to know about Facebook and posting and, all of that sort of thing. So that's when that started, and when I started getting involved in social media. So I started actually, I guess you could say, volunteering in November of 17 when I started doing the good morning and good nights. And then it's just, expanded from there.
And even all of the work that you did for my catrescue.biz site, you did all of that for free as well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And what we were using that money for, Big Cat Rescue can donate roughly 5% of our, I think it's 5% of our income toward doing legislative type work. But we need to do a lot more legislative type work than is legal for the sanctuary to do. So I ran the cat rescue site as a way of raising money for lobbyists and working on our federal bill. And so by having Deb working all of that for me for free, it meant that all of the money that we made off of that could go to changing the laws. So it was definitely for the same purpose of protecting cats, just done through money that I had to pay taxes on rather than nonprofit money that you don't pay tax on. And so in 2017, you started doing the Good Morning and Good Night. And is that when you started learning how to use Canva and these editing software programs?
It is, yeah. But I learned more about that in 2018 and 2019 when you started having me do more with YouTube and other things. And so that's when I really started learning more. And I still have trouble believing that I know how to do all these things, because that's not what I went to school for. I am not a tech person. I am, or anybody that ever thought they would do those kinds of things. I am one that let me, take care of sick kids or sick adults all day long and start IVs and give shots and, all that. But I had never in a million years thought I would be doing what I do now, or even what I did then. So I would go to work every day, and then I would come home and hurry and change clothes and immediately sit down at my computer and start doing the things that Luana had asked me to do and that you had asked me to do. And so I was, working all day and then coming home and working volunteering 5 or 6 hours every evening. But that was like the best part of my day. and to this day, and sitting in front of the computer to do stuff for the sanctuary is the best thing I could ever have the opportunity to do.
Maybe it's because you were a teacher, a trainer, and you're accustomed to doing this sort of thing. But one of the things I found really lovely about working with you is that I could either just say, I want you to do this, and you would figure it out. Or at the very worst, I might do a tutorial video and you would take it and do it, whatever it was. And there wasn't a whole lot of needing to come back to me. If I didn't say what was necessary, I think you figured out I didn't know what I didn't know, and you'd go find out on your own to make it happen.
Yeah, you've had to send me several of those tutorials.
But never two on the same topic.
So I've been able to, to do a lot of things for the sanctuary, for the cats, for you, for Luana, for other staff members there that I would have never dreamed that I would have had the opportunity to do, just a few years ago.
And now you've retired from your teaching job and you're doing Big Cat full-time. Can you tell people what your day looks like?
So yes, I retired in August of 2020. We went virtual. I was a nursing instructor at a community college, and we went virtual in March of 2020. And I did that for the rest of that spring semester, but then was determined that I wasn't going back to that. I just couldn't go back to that. It was just something that I wasn't able to do. It just was very, very stressful for me. And so Carol had approached me sometime before all of that, and just saying, hey, I'm just kind of thinking about this. And but at that time I was still working full time and knew that I still had to work for a while. But anyway, so I retired in August of 2020. And so I post on Facebook and do a lot of the social media, not all of it, but a good portion of the social media that we have, the YouTube. And so I'm up before 7:00. The first posts go up at 7. Well, the first posts actually go up at 6, but thanks to Buffer, I don't have to get up at 6. So I'm up before 7, and a lot of times before that, because I'll hear my phone go off, or I'll get something from Explore, or an email or something. And so I start with social media before 7:00, and go pretty much all day, and most days it's about a 14 to 16 hour day that I sit at the computer. Some days it's more than that. There's been there was a couple months where I was on the computer close to 24 hours a day, 24 consecutive hours, and then would take a break and sleep and get back on. And there was a number of us that did that back in 2020. Thankfully, I don't have to do that anymore. But it still is about a 14 to 16 hour day every day. So lots of social media, take care of emails that come through that I'm asked to answer. Great American Teach-In every fall. I help coordinate that because it's all virtual now, pretty much. Some of your YouTube or some of your social media channels. The last 2 years, I've gotten a chance to help with the Wildcat Walkabout that's been virtual. And this past year, I actually got to sit in the party house doing all the computer stuff while everybody else was out on property doing the walkabout. But I got to sit in there and do it all virtually. So that was pretty fun to actually be there and be able to do that.
Well, it was so necessary because we were all virtual last year. Yeah.
So that was a lot of fun to be able to be there this past year, to be able to I mean, I was in the party house doing it. I wasn't out on property, but to be able, people were coming and going, and, it was just a lot of fun. So that's kind of what I do now. I do monitor Explore, and if there's any issues with the cats, they will contact me any time of day or night, and I will get a hold of the operations manager on duty, or whoever I need to get a hold of if there's something going on with the cat. So there's, Manny got stung by a bee once, and there's been a couple servals that have gotten snakes, and, there's been concern over some of the rehab bobcats at times. And so I've spent a few nights up on the computer watching the cats as I was waiting on it to be late enough in the morning that I could actually call somebody, because it wasn't life or death, but it's like, I need to talk to somebody. So it just, whatever needs to be done, I am happy to do.
And in addition to buffering so many of those contacts that would be otherwise people trying to contact me or Jamie or other people, the vets at the sanctuary, by having you as that interim person that they can go to, it gives you the chance to weigh whether or not this is something that really does raise to the point of let's wake somebody up right now, or can it be handled at a later point in time. And so many of my emails that come in throughout the day, if there is any way that I can hand them off to you, I do. And so I really appreciate that you're always willing to take those calls where people want to have somebody talk to their class or somebody help them with their thesis or all of those kinds of things that people hit me up for all the time, because my contact information is out there, but there's just no way I'd be able to handle them. So I really appreciate that. Well, I can't thank you enough for the work that you do, and I know Karen has probably got a lot of questions, so I'm going to hand it over to Karen, and Karen, I'll try to watch the back end here for people raising their hands to bring them up on stage, and then you can hand it off to the next person.
Perfect. I actually, instead of a question, I just want to tell everyone that I feel like such an extremely lucky person working with Deb. I've never met anybody more focused, intelligent, loving. She's an amazing mom and grandma. She's an amazing advocate. She helps the people on site, not only us online here, but she just is everywhere at once. She would literally I can't even imagine how long it would take you to list everything that you do. I know that there's more. I do know that. But she just never gets frazzled. I ask her a question, she just knows the answer. There's times when I look at a question 3 or 4 times and I think, do I really want to bother her with this? And she just knows it. I remember one time, I don't know if it was one of the walkabouts. I don't even know what it was, but I was on property for a tour, or I was in a gift shop for some reason. And she was in there, and I said, because I was a moderator, I've been a moderator for a while, but I guess I was just starting to be a moderator. And I said, how do you remember everything? And she had this book just with pages of interesting, amazing facts and figures and links. And I said, oh, I'll never be as good as her. I will never be as good as her. And I won't ever be as good as her. But Deb, you never get upset. You make me go get a cup of coffee when I need one. She'll say to me, she'll say, go. You need to go, or you need to go to sleep, or she's like such a great friend and just an amazing person to Carol. I know Carol knows that, but just amazing. And we crack up too. I said that last week on ClubHouse. Sometimes we just need a laugh because just something is just so ridiculous that sometimes you just have to think, is this person serious, or are we banning them, or what are we doing? What do you think, Deb? And she's just an amazing human being. So instead of my question, I just had to say that. So I will hand off to Daniel. If you'd like to ask a question, go right ahead.
Well, thank you, Karen. I appreciate that. It takes us all to do what we do. So thank you.
Well, hi. I am happy to talk to Deb, because Deb is just cool. I'll admit to earlier in this clubhouse, I was shopping on Big Cat Rescue for a new bug, so I missed a little bit of it. But I have to ask this question. Why is Priya your favorite cat, Deb? What about Princess Priya Moo Monster just got your heart going?
I think it's because I had rescued a dachshund from a puppy mill, and she had been bred over and over again in 5 years before I got her when she was 5. And I think just Priya's story was so much like Sophie's, which was my dog's name, that it just really resonated with me. The whole puppy mill thing, the speed breeding of cubs. I think just the whole thing resonated with me. And then the fact of her surgery and the fact that, we nearly lost her. And I think everybody that was following Big Cat Rescue at the time probably felt the same way, because we were watching her nest cam 24 hours a day. And that's really how that all came to be. But just, the longer that I'm around, the more special, I guess, she becomes. And, the fact we can watch her on Explore when she decides to come down to the lake. And, bless Brittany's heart. She knows that I love to see her. And of course I'm not on property. And so she'll start with her, end with her or something some days. And I always thank her for that, because, she knows that I miss not getting to see her. So yeah, she's, I love all of them. I can't just name just her. There's a lot that I really love, but her, she really does hold a special place in my heart.
And she is unique in the sound she makes, and her mannerisms, and just everything. She's just not a typical tiger. She's like, when they made Priya, it just kind of broke the mold. She's just special.
I have to agree. She's very special.
Priya also has been through so much, like Aria, but Priya, right, Deb? We watched that kind of, all of us together. We weren't quite new, because you and I came in at the same time. But what they did for her too, and the emotion that went into it, kind of like Hoover's Rescue, but then Priya, there was ones in between, but then when Priya came along, she just grabbed our attention right away, I think, right? Didn't you feel that way too, that Priya was definitely, her story kind of lured you in a little too?
Yeah, it did. And that entire rescue of all of those cats, what I thought that was the first big rescue that I was around for. And so, the whole rescue was pretty incredible. And all of their stories were very sad, and, the speed breeding and everything that they've been through, but especially Priya. So I had looked back to see, and I had written, like by snail mail, written to Carol several times in 2016. But then in 2017, I looked back, and February of 2017 was the first time that I ever actually emailed her. And it was to ask about a piece of equipment that was on the wish list for the hospital. And so that was the first time that I had ever emailed Carol. And of all things, it was about a piece of equipment for the hospital. So go figure.
Key, would you like to ask a question for Deb?
Yes. Well, first of all, I have to say thank you to Deb, because I just ask her so many questions. If, no matter what, I ask her a question, no matter what it is, she always gets back to me, and she's always so kind and thoughtful and helpful. And I just have to say that, I started following Big Cat Rescue in 2012, and I fell in love with Jumanji, and I just was following, and then I was just, liking and loving, and then I started noticing Deb and her posts, and I was like, wow, I should try that. And I did, and then I found that I should do it more to get more people to like Big Cat Rescue and their mission. And I just, because of Deb, I can't stop now. I just got to keep posting, because I just want more people to just keep interested in the cats and their stories and the things that shouldn't be done. So Deb, thank you so much with all my heart.
And you do a great job with that too, Key, by the way.
Oh, thank you so much. You're the best.
Thanks.
She is the best. Ethan, do you have a question for Deb?
Hello. Yes, I do. So I have a deep background in humanitarianism and as a philanthropist. And so, Deb, my question to you would be, what would you say was your most unique challenge, especially like during the pandemic, working with Big Cat Rescue?
Well, I work virtually, so I don't even live in Florida. I live in the cold north in Indiana. And I think during the pandemic, there was just so many more people were online, and there were, more than normal, because people were at home kind of locked in their houses with, what am I going to do? And so not only on Facebook, but I saw, a lot more comments on YouTube and LinkedIn and Instagram and Twitter and all of those places. And so it just became more important to be sure that I was meeting all of the needs of those who had questions or made comments. And what I've found is that people don't always have a question, but they might just have a comment, and that people really do appreciate when you just comment back, so that they know that they've been seen, so to speak. And I think that's important. I think that's important for all of us to, feel like we've been seen and heard. And so I try to, I don't always succeed, but I try to be sure that I reply to people and, try to make sure that they know that their voice has been heard, or their question or comment's been heard. So I think there's just a lot more of that during the pandemic than there had been before. And I think still we have a lot of people, even now, who maybe aren't back to their normal routines, from around the world, not just in the United States, that just need somebody to talk to. And people will message me a lot. And it's not necessarily even about the cats. It's just about something that they want somebody to talk to, and they see my name, and so they'll reach out. And so there's a lot of those kind of conversations that go on too.
Thank you, Ethan. And Chad, you're next. Chad, would you like to ask a question to Deb? You have to unmute if you do. There you go.
Hi, Deb. I would like to personally just say thank you to you as a moderator of Big Cat Rescue. Your job does not go unnoticed. you're so tough in your job, and I value you and all the staff and every keeper at Big Cat Rescue. I spend 30 minutes every Sunday night at 9 o'clock promoting and educating people on Big Cat Rescue on Facebook. And I tell you, I've been on there and seen them trolls, and I tell you, I just sit there when, there's been times I've been laying in my bed in the morning and just had you just sit there and just like a stress ball, just squeezing my hand, just like you would a stress ball, and then I see Don Harper. She's like, the moderators are on it, and I said, yeah. I said, I know Deb's on it, but I said, this is just making me really upset and angry that somebody's talking about Carol the way they are, and then I look, and then you're just like, whoa. I mean, the troll or the hater is just gone, and I just want to personally thank you for your tough work, and to me, you deserve to see Priya morning, night, and day for the tough work you do for Big Cat, and I just want to tell you thank you, and I want to tell all the staff at Big Cat that I pray for you guys every single day. I pray for you in the morning. I pray for you in the evening. And, I mean, I really do. There's not a time that goes out of my mind that when you post a cat up in the morning, I mean, sometimes I'm careful because I don't know if it's another staff member at Big Cat posting good morning, and I always say good morning, Deb, and BCR. But I pretty well know after other people's leave that they've said hi to you, that I said, well, it's pretty safe that I can say good morning to you. But I've had people call me and ask about different cats, and I've educated people, and I've got people that didn't even know about Big Cat Rescue that are now following Brittany's live posts. And, they ask about Carol and Lisa on Singing Sunday, and I've promoted that. But I spend 30 minutes every Sunday night promoting the Big Cat Public Safety Act and Big Cat Rescue. But I just want to tell you thank you. You're an awesome moderator. You rock. And I want to tell you thank you from the bottom of my heart. And may God sincerely bless you in your circumstances.
Thank you so much for that, Chad. And one of the things you don't know about Deb is that she does not want me to ever see one of those trolls say anything nasty. So she is like on at least 5 different media channels, constantly looking for that stuff to make sure she gets to it before I ever have a chance to even see it.
Absolutely. And that is absolutely correct.
Well, it's just like it just infuriates me inside when they sit there and someone can make such a comment, a hateful comment about Carolyn. I mean, I've even been asked, and I flipped the question off to somebody the other day, just the other day, and I was very nice about it. And this person says, "Well, I hate Carol Baskin," and I said, "Oh, really?" I says, "What has Carol Baskin done to you?" I said, "What has she done to you to make you hate her?" I says, she's a lovely lady, excellent lady, and I said, she's doing so much for the cats and done so much for the cats and still doing. And, it just infuriates me inside to see one of them trolls up there gets on there and says something about Carol, and I'm like, dude, I'm about ready to sit there, and I guess I'm about ready to sit there and just, some mornings I'm about ready to punch the wall, and I'm like, okay, oh yeah, all right. And then I think the time where they say, oh, let's pet the tiger I would love to pet the tiger. Oh, okay, yeah. That don't work out well. But I just, it just hurts me inside because I would never, ever, ever, it hurts me when they talk about Carol bad or anybody bad, but especially about Carol after so much as Carol and Howie's done so much for the love of the cats and the sake of the cats. And, still, if a troll's got to get on there and try to make somebody's day miserable, but I just enjoy the cats. And I thank you for the experience about getting the haters and the trolls off of there so we can have a wonderful, relaxing experience seeing the cats and truly just having an experience and a lovely experience with every cat on property. And I thank Brittany for doing such a wonderful job, because I tell you, that woman's incredible in her lives. She's just an incredible woman. And thank y'all for what you do, and love you guys deeply, and I pray for y'all daily.
Thank you so much, Chad. I'm sorry, Deb, but you got to me, so I had to jump right in. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
I will say that I do monitor some of Carol's social media, and she's absolutely right. I don't want her to see any of that, and it's not like she hasn't seen it before. But if something's under my watch, I'm just determined she's not going to see it. I'm going to get rid of it or answer it or whatever needs to be done. So I take my volunteer job as if I was being, paid $1 million for it, because it's very important to me to make sure that, those things are done right. And so yeah, I do. And the other thing that I try to do is Carol's social media that I monitor. I've told Carol this, I listen to how she phrases things. I've always done that, but I listen very carefully to how she phrases things. And so when I answer, I try to phrase what I'm saying just as she would phrase it, so that I can pick up the slack for her, because she has so many other things going on in her life, things that she's doing, that if I can take care of that for her, that's what I want to do. And so I try to be very mindful of how I reply to those things and answer those things.
And I cannot tell us apart. When I see something that I've written, it's like, I don't remember writing that, but maybe I did. And then it's like, oh, I bet it was Deb. It was so much in my language that it sounded like it was me.
That's a good thing. That's my goal.
Well, now you got a problem with two Dawns. How are they going to know which one's which?
I know. I was just looking at that, Carol. We do have, and I think Dawn HRA, and I don't know how to say that, is the second one. So, Dawn, if you'd like to.
I just want to say thank you, Deb, for all your hard work.
Well, thank you.
And I was just wanting to find out if there was been any update on the Big Cat Safety Act.
Carol, I'll let you take that.
We're up to 250 co-sponsors in the House, and what we're trying to do is get more co-sponsors in the Senate. So next week, I'm going back to D.C. You guys might remember that last month I went to D.C. for like a 4-day whirlwind tour of both the House and the Senate, trying to gather co-sponsors, and we decided that that was so successful, I'm going to go back and do it again. And so we have this year to get through the Senate, but a big cat bill in the past decade has never gotten through the Senate by itself. It's had to be tacked onto some other package. And so we're looking for a package, or maybe going to create a package of things to put it together with, so that we can get it through the Senate.
Exciting. And also, I agree with Chad. It infuriates me every time I see somebody say anything negative about Carol. I've had people personally on my Facebook friends say something and they get removed from my Facebook because of it. I do not like it.
Well, I have to tell you a funny story. I have the Cool Cats and Hey, all you cool cats and kittens t-shirt, and I wear them a lot because they're pink. But what I enjoy is when I go into the grocery store or wherever I go, and someone will look at my shirt and they'll say, "Oh, do you know Carol Baskin?" And I just smile and say, "Yeah, she's my boss." They have no words. They don't even know what to say.
They wouldn't expect that in Indiana.
No, they wouldn't expect that. I also have a bumper sticker and a license plate thing on the back of my car. And more than once, I've had people stop me in a parking lot somewhere and say, "Do you know Carol Baskin?" And they'll point to my sticker or whatever. And I'll say, yeah, she's my boss. And they don't even know what to say. They don't even know how to reply. So in those moments when they don't know how to reply and they're, stunned, I can just keep right on talking about the Big Cat Public Safety Act or cup heading or whatever. And by the time they finally gather themselves to be able to know what to say next, I've had a chance to educate somebody.
It just infuriates me. Carol does too much, and for people to disrespect her like that, it just infuriates me.
It does me too, Dawn.
Because she truly loves them cats. Everybody at BCR does.
Yes, we do.
But thank you.
Thank you.
Dawn, number 2. Dawn, is that, I know it's not your last name, but did you shorten that on purpose? HRA, right?
Right, it's HRABE. It's Raby. H is
Okay.
silent.
Okay,
Hi,
but you
everybody.
just shortened it. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. How are you? Deb, I want to take the time to thank you for answering my questions that I have for you. Every time I message you, you are right back to me in a second answering the questions. I try not to bother you. I will go to Carol, Judge, also, because since I have moved to the TikTok team lead thing, there have been questions and stuff, so I go to Carol Judge. But when I might be a little anxious, and I'll message you and Carol and wait to see who replies. But I am glad to be part of Big Cat Rescue. I don't have a favorite because I love every single animal and big cats on and small of Big Cat Rescue. And I am very anxious to get this bill passed. And I am right along with you all fighting the fight to end this. And I am very glad that I was able to come across Big Cat Rescue because I'm very proud to talk and say that I am part of Big Cat Rescue. Thank you, guys.
Well, thank you, Dawn. I appreciate all your help in what you do too with TikTok.
Hey, for a second, this is Daniel. I'm on the TikTok, and for some reason there are 2 Big Cat Rescues on TikTok. There's the verified one, which I'm sure is you, and then there's another channel calling itself Big Cat Rescue. It doesn't have any videos, but I thought you should just be made aware that there is another Big Cat Rescue on TikTok.
Luana is aware of it, and she has reported it.
Okay.
But you can report it too, Dan.
Oh, I will.
And now, next is a member of the Firewall team, which is wonderful and helps so much, and we love her, Chris.
Oh, thanks, Karen. I just want to say that I want to echo what Karen said about you. It's been an absolute pleasure working with you. You're so nice and gentle, and you have full of knowledge as well. And can't believe it'll be nearly 2 years being on the Firewall team. So thank you for all you do. Really appreciate your help and guidance and being there for us.
I want to thank you for picking up the overnight one so I could sleep.
Thanks, Deb. Yeah, it helps being in a different time zone. So it's about 12 or 13-hour difference from Tampa to where I am. So it kind of makes it easier for us to do a 24-hour rotating clock working hours. So that really helps. So I'm really happy to help Deb and Karen and the team. The question I wanted to ask from Deb, Daniel's kind of already asked that. My question is going to be, when did you fall in love with your girl Priya. But instead, maybe I'll ask, were you at BCR on property when Priya was rescued, or when did you first see her?
No, I was not. I just saw the lives like everyone else that were done, and all the posts and things like that on social media. I did not actually meet her until November of 17 when I went down there. Well,
Right.
yeah, November of 17. So it was a year after she was rescued. So that was the first time I was ever on property, and it was when I was doing the founders tour with Carol. It was the very first time that I ever met her.
Perfect.
Could either you, Chris, or Deb maybe explain to the people in the audience who don't know what a firewall team is?
Chris, I'll let you take that.
Yeah, sure. So I guess, during, especially after around the Tiger King period, there was a lot of hate, towards BC Carol, Hobby, as well as all the social media, BCR social media pages, especially starting with Facebook. So the firewall team was created to help Deb and others who've been moderators for a long time. So because it's really pretty impossible to get all those hate and comments and nasty comments, death threats, etc. So it's the firewall's team now still kind of deal with that hate, but also to educate people who are new and also some not so new, and about the mission of BCR and what it stands for and what Carol and the others stand for. And sometimes we've seen some haters actually change and become supporters. So that's kind of in a nutshell what the firewall team does. We respond to questions, we follow up with people, and also remove any hate and negative comments from the social media pages.
Thank
And
you.
so there was no firewall, and that's just the name that we came up with before March of 2020. And so in the beginning, it was Luana and CJ and myself, pretty much, and a few others, managing particularly Facebook at the time. And that's when we were working 18, 20, 22-hour days around the clock. And very shortly after that, within a few weeks, we created this firewall team. And now Karen is actually over the firewall team. And we have people that are from multiple different time zones around the world that manage firewall 24 hours a day. So thankfully, Chris and Sonia and some others that are in very much other time zones, like 12-hour different, help us out during the night. And Karen stays up very late. I get up pretty early. Luana and CJ are on during the night. So we're able to, and then a lot of people are on during the day, able to manage a lot of the comments. Now I think, and Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think now a lot of it is more questions. Just people learning, and they may come across as hateful and not very nice sometimes, but I think it's more that that's just their personality, but they simply don't understand the issues. And when the firewall team takes the time to educate those people, we really are able to turn a lot of those people around. So I think now it's more just questions than what we were seeing back in early 2020.
Yeah, definitely. It has, reduced substantially since that time. Occasionally, we do get some people that are, impossible to educate, or they don't want to be educated,
right,
or to learn. They are just there to troll. But the majority of the people, you're right, are there to learn, or they are simply there because they didn't know. They've gone with being following the sheep and just making comments because you can do so online and be brave. But then when they learn, they do turn. Yeah, you're right. It kind of ebbs and flows with what's happening in media, but in general, that is true.
I was going to say too, this is Karen, we do have upticks when something comes out, a docuseries. The whole thing with Antle was just out. Then something else was on ID that was horrible. And I do notice that there's an uptick at that point for a day or two. And then I'll write in my nightly update for the girls that are overnight, and then the next morning to just take a peek at either this or that. And we kind of attack from all angles. But for the most part, it's really chilled out, and it is a lot of people that are much more interested now. It's good to have the supporters that really are there for the cats instead of fighting off all that we had to in the beginning. So it really has calmed down. It's actually very nice, and we have a great team. They're amazing people. Chris, did you want to say anything else? Otherwise, we'll go on to Nisha.
Thank you.
You're amazing, Chris. Thank you so much.
Hi, first I just wanted to let my 9-year-old son Vincent say something.
Hello, and thank you for all you do.
Well, thank you, Vincent.
And then the other thing that I was going to say is I'm actually interested in helping out with anything and everything that you give me. I do work on certain days, though, but it's just part-time.
If you will message me either on Instagram or Facebook, I will get you connected with Luana. She's the one that sets up all the teams, and she can do that for you.
Thank you very much.
Luana was here. I don't know where she went. She probably got busy, but she was here a little while ago.
Or lost her signal. She's out in the middle of nowhere. So would everybody open up your microphone and let Deb know how much you appreciate her?
Love you.
Thank you.
We love you, Deb. You're the best.
You are the best.
And Deb, would you like to tell...
Bye, everybody.
Deb, do you want to tell everybody who is next week?
Yes, next week is, her name is Lobat. She is over the Asiatic Cheetah Foundation. Her dad actually started that back a number of years ago, and when her dad passed away, she picked up and started overseeing the foundation. And she's actually been on our Clubhouse several times and spoken, and she is so interesting. And so she's going to be our guest next week. So I really encourage you to come back and hear what she has to say, because she's a very interesting person, and she had so many experiences around the world with saving cheetahs and her foundation and that kind of thing. So be sure and come back next week to hear what she has to say.
That's awesome.
Yeah, she's really...
She is. She's very interesting, I have to say.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for being here tonight. I so appreciate it. I hope you will make the call of the wild at bigcatact.com and join us on Facebook and YouTube and Instagram and TikTok and all of the places where you can find Deb and Karen and all these other people.
Thank you so much, Carol.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
Good night.
Thank you, Carol.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.